Zani's been out for a couple of days now, and since I've had the chance to test her out more extensively, I thought I'd deliver my more fleshed out thoughts on the character, evaluate whether my pre-release pros and cons were accurate or not, and give my opinion on where I currently think she stands in the meta. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. For starters, I highlighted that Zani would host the ability to amp up her team's spectral damage via her outro skill. While this is in fact true, it's not really a major selling point of her in my opinion. This goat lady is a main DPS, through and through, working herself to the bone dishing out damage, which I'm sure she's positively thrilled about. I suppose it's nice that the second spectral teammate in her comp is able to do some extra damage, but this isn't actually anything insane to write home about. It's more of a nice bonus than anything else, not really a particular reason as to why you would pull for her. I also mentioned that she would have pretty good AOE potential, and in my opinion, yes, this did end up checking out. I would say that her attacks have quite a large range, her big swings are able to attack a lot of enemies at once, and I would say that she's pretty comfortable when you're facing a lot of enemies. I would actually go as far as to say that I think that her playstyle is quite adaptable on the whole. You're able to apply her to basically any situation that you so desire, and she'll perform. Single target? Yup. Multiwave? Yup. AOE? She'll do pretty fine there as well. Now I do think that she's better in TOA compared to Whimpering Wastes, but she's still good there as well. I am curious as to whether Zani is going to be benefiting from Shacona's release at all, considering that character is able to apply Spectral Frazzle in Multiwave, thus potentially improving the Gold Banker Lady's Whimpering Wastes performance. Assuming something along the lines of herself, Phoebe, and Shacona. We'll have to see how that pans out, considering that Verena and Shorekeeper are both very good final slot teammates for Zani in terms of boosting her damage output. But even as it currently stands, she is 100% serviceable in all game modes, including wuwa, and she's able to do just fine in AoE, so that's delightful in my opinion. And yes, I do think that her multiwave is honestly completely fine. I truly haven't had any issues of her in regards to her multiwave. This might sound strange at first. After all, if you choose to play her like one, then Phoebe is also a spectral DPS. However, her multiwave feels worse. This is because of a key difference between them. Zani doesn't need Spectral Frazzle to be applied at all times. You see, it doesn't actually matter if the enemy she's attacking has Spectral Frazzle applied onto them or not. As long as it's been applied at some point throughout her rotation, she'll be able to build up Forte stacks, which will then enable Zani to do her ultimate's heavy slashes. So inherently down at the core of her kit, she has better multi-wave than somebody like Phoebe. Now I will say, my real complaint in terms of Zani's playability, she is a little bit rough to use in Overworld. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely still use her there, but most of the time it feels like your confession Phoebe is the one taking out Overworld enemies as opposed to Zani herself. Now granted, I do still vastly enjoy running around Overworld with her and seeing her excellent design, but this is precisely the reason as to why I don't really like playing ultimate-based characters in the Overworld. However, in endgame content, her rotations are extremely smooth, so that's nothing to worry about there. In terms of her overall damage potential, goodness me, is Zani strong. Like, she is really strong. She is capable of doing some ridiculous numbers. Even at a baseline with free-to-play level investment, she's still quite good to be honest. But if you're to go the extra kilometer, get her signature weapon, get her Phoebe, maybe even a Phoebe signature weapon, you're going to be absolutely blown away by what Zani can do for you. It is actually kind of wild. She is certainly on the higher end of Wuthering Waves' DPS cast, without question. She's really impressive in terms of output. In terms of whether she's a better main DPS than Absolution Phoebe or not, while I have Phoebe, I have a good build for her and I have her signature weapon. And to be honest, yeah, I do feel like Zani is better. Now, is it by some wildly significant margin? Should you pull for Zani if you have a Phoebe and you want to upgrade your Spectral Frazzle team? I do think it is a worthwhile upgrade, but it's definitely nothing that you need to do. It is a damage gap, but it's not so large to the point where you absolutely need to get Zani to upgrade. Absolution Phoebe on her own is absolutely still an amazing DPS. Even after Zani's release, I still consider Phoebe to be a top tier carry. Not to mention how free-to-play friendly she is, considering that you can stick her in a full 4-star team, stick her on a 4-star weapon, and she will 100% get the job done for you just fine. However, yes, Zani is a better main DPS than Absolution Phoebe in my opinion. It is worth noting that the current middle tower of TOA is very Spectral Frazzle biased right now, but I do believe that even in the future whenever Spectral Frazzle Shield is no longer as prevalent, Zani is still going to remain as an extremely strong main DPS character. And her being a better DPS than Phoebe probably isn't going to change either, considering that they are both the same archetype of damage dealer, Spectral Frazzle. I had also mentioned previously that she was going to be a great Phoebe teammate, and to be honest, it's kind of the other way around. Phoebe is a great Zani teammate. You wouldn't really pull for Zani if you're a Phoebe simp that wants your Phoebe specifically to be really good. You're pretty much always going to want to play Confession Phoebe with Zani and have her benefit from all of the amazing supportive qualities that she's able to offer her. I had assumed that because of Zani's Spectral Amplification on outro, but there'd be some kind of potential for Zani to even support Phoebe in some way, or for them to even play in a dual carry team, but to be honest, it's just far more effective to use Confession Phoebe to support your Zani's damage. To be honest, this was very predictable, considering that Confession Phoebe literally had zero use case in the game whenever Phoebe had first initially come out, and now that we have Zani, another Spectrophrasal DPS, it finally has a reason to be used. So it makes sense that that's the ideal playstyle here. So while yes, the two definitely do synergize together, it is very much Phoebe helping Zani. I had also mentioned that Zani was concerningly high cost for a Wuthering Waves limited 5-star, and to be honest, it's a little rough how much you want Phoebe. Now, is she completely terrible without the Acolyte? No, she's in fact still a strong character with a free-to-play friendly team, such as Mortefi and Spectre Rover, and you're absolutely still going to clear all of the endgame content. However, TOA is really Spectrophrasal shilling right now, like really Spectrophrasal shilling, so the free-to-play team is going to feel inflated at the moment. Now, is it still going to clear into the future? Yes, I do think so, but it is undeniable how much better Phoebe is. Sure, the Goat Banker lady doesn't absolutely require Phoebe, she will still work fine on a free-to-play team, for sure. However, Phoebe is absolutely very desired. And as always, she does really want her signature weapon, but to be honest, that is the status quo for a Wuthering Waves main DPS. I don't really think that that's some horrible thing that I need to point out, because that's just kind of common these days. But pair that on top of the fact that she does really prefer to have Phoebe in her team, and it gets a little rough. It's why I say to people that are considering who they should pull for between the two, if you don't have a lot of Astrites to spare, Phoebe is honestly the better investment. She has better 4-star weapons, she's a free-to-play friendly team, and she's able to upgrade to being a support in Zani teams later on, whereas if you pull for Zani up front, you would ideally have her signature weapon and her best limited 5-star teammate. Now once again, you don't require these things in order for Zani to be good, but they are undeniably very large performance boosts. Now I know some people might turn to Carlotta and say, okay, everyone said that she would need Jojo very badly, but here we are now and she is very good. Well yes, that's true. However, she also has Changli Quickswap as a very effective alternative, which when put in the hands of good players can honestly perform quite highly, and you also have Yang Yang as a very good 4-star teammate. So while I do 100% agree that Zani can be a good character on her own independently of Phoebe, I don't think her situation is quite as good as Carlotta's, where I do feel like she has a bit more options at her disposal, while not losing as much whenever she doesn't have her best 5-star teammates. Because for Carlotta, yes, she does lose a good bit of performance whenever you don't have Jojo, but it's not a ridiculous amount. With Zani, it is a ridiculous amount. Now ultimately, does this matter? Not necessarily, because Zani has such a high power baseline that you're going to be clearing either way, but it is worth mentioning that her top potential is quite high cost compared to the average Wuthering Waves 5-star. I suppose a Montelli's services are just quite expensive. I had also mentioned that I was pretty concerned as to how slow her gameplay looked, and in hindsight, what a silly complaint. Okay, yes, she's definitely slow looking, but whenever you actually have her in your hands and you're playing the character, she feels weighted, it feels good, it feels like you're really attacking and making some impactful hits. Now, is it slower, quote unquote? Yes, it is definitely slower in the sense that you're not attacking as quickly as somebody like Brant Wuthering Waves or Changli. However, with that being said, slower doesn't equal worse, not by any stretch of the imagination. I'm usually turned off by very slow characters because they feel super clunky, but Zani does not feel clunky at all. Her gameplay rotations feel extremely smooth, and I love executing them. She is genuinely an amazing character in terms of gameplay feel, and I really like the sound design. I'm not sure how much that matters for people, but to me personally, it does really add to the experience. So I'm happy about that. Now certainly still trial her to make sure that she's what you really want, because after all, her gameplay is still quite different from the average Wuthering Waves character at the end of the day, but I do think that if you're into what she offers, it's a very unique and refreshing gameplay experience. I personally really like it, and I'm someone that isn't really fond of very heavy-weighted characters, so major kudos to Kuro Games for being able to make a heavy-weighted character that just feels this good to play. And now for what you've all been waiting for. Where do I currently think that Zani stands in the meta? To be honest, I do think that she's an S-tier DPS. I do really think that she is super powerful, and they really did deliver in terms of her power budget. Now granted, I'm not very happy about how much of her max power level is hidden behind needing Phoebe. That is a little bit rough, and I hope that future characters do not continue to be this reliant on their limited 5-star teammates. I feel like that not having a limited 5-star teammate should be a 30% loss at worst, at absolute worst, but should on average only be like a 20% loss or so. The loss from not having Phoebe is pretty absurd. That is just how negative status team comps are formed at the end of the day, and we all knew that Phoebe was going to be the Spectrophrasal character to pick up if you want to invest in the archetype long term, but either way, it is still kind of a shame. Now, outside of that, I do think that she's very strong, her playstyle is very adaptable, and I'm personally really pleased with how she came out. I do wish she was a little bit better in the overworld, because she's really growing on me and I'm running around with her a lot recently. She's also the first character that I actually decided to pick up limited sequences on. I've only got S1 right now, but I'm aiming for S2 as we speak. She's 100% a very valuable DPS, but I would only really invest into her if you have the astrites to spend. Because the higher investment that your Zani is, the more busted that she's going to feel. And if you're wondering, yes, she will feel more busted if you put those level of astrites into her compared to other characters. So it is indeed worth the investment. You do get what you pay for, if you will. So, very strong character, I'm definitely happy with her, but let's hope that this limited 5-star teammate reliance is a one-time thing. All in all, Zani is quickly rising to be one of my favorite Wuthering Waves characters. I just think that she's so cool. Like, she looks really good in my opinion, and honestly her personality is pretty funny. She really is just tired of everything and wants to go home. And you know what? Fair enough, Zani. Fair enough. She's certainly the most hype rinascita release out of the entire cast so far, and I'm wondering how they're going to top her in the future. I do seriously hope that down the line they do decide to release some more 4-star characters that are related to Spectral Frazzle, so the people who don't have or don't want Phoebe can still have an upgrade over Spectral Rover. But otherwise, really cool character. But how about yourself? Are you currently enjoying Zani? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, I have a ZZZ second channel. Head on over and subscribe if you're interested in some fun, silly ZZZ content. I'd also like to mention that I stream on Twitch. I stream once a week every week on Saturdays, starting from free PMK time. Come along so we can play Wuthering Waves, ZZZ, and do some other fun stuff together. Hopefully this video is able to tell you my more developed opinions on Zani now that we've had her out for a while. This has been Juice, signing out. And let's hope that by her next banner, she'll have finally had that vacation that she's been hoping for.